Just heard from the spokeswoman just minutes ago that they were still treating this as an active shooter situation. And when she was asked, is the threat over? She responded by saying, not yet. Again, a shooting at this STEM school is a K-12 school comprised of about 1,800 students. All of those students are now being bused over to a nearby rec center, and that's where parents are set to reunite with their children.
One thing we haven't really seen yet is kids coming out with parents after being reunified at the recreation center. Have we just happened to not see that, or do you feel like the kids are being kept inside there for now while the school can kind of officially sort out and make sure everyone's accounted for before releasing anyone? Does that make sense?
Yeah, Bart, I believe the buses that you see coming in right now are filled with students, and because the scene is so chaotic, they obviously want to keep everyone separated in order to fully count everyone. You can see this bus here loaded with kids this afternoon. We've got a parent here who probably looking for his kid on one of these buses. This is the third bus that we've seen come into the rec center. Completely packed. You can see there's kids standing in the aisles of the buses in order to get everyone on. This is our fifth bus. 6, 7, 8 buses have already made their way in. And if you can't see already, it's raining outside. It is pouring. We are all soaking wet out here, but it is not stopping the hundreds of parents that are out here waiting for their kids to get back. And these buses are getting escorted all the way back to the back of the building where they can be reunified with their parents. We're being kept away from that area in order to minimize the chaos that we've seen here. And Bart, I can't explain it. There's so much going on this afternoon.
Yeah, and a lot of parents just with a frantic look on their face, hoping to see their student. Of course, we don't know any of the names of those who were hurt this afternoon. So that is the fear of each and every parent who might be going to that school themselves, hoping that their child isn't one of the 8. And that's the fear, is that we have been waiting for quite some time now. Again, the initial shots were 1:53. Have you been able to speak with any of those parents arriving yet, Crystal?
Heather, we just got onto this recreation center, I want to say no less than 5 minutes ago. The parents that are coming by, not many of them are stopping to sit and watch. We've seen parents come through that are barefoot. They don't have any shoes on because of the intense face that you see on. They want to be one of the first parents to get back into that area and see if their kids are one of the ones that made it. And so you really start to feel this parents. You don't want to stop and talk to them because you want them to get back there and figure out if they're one of the parents, one of the lucky parents this afternoon. And so it's hard. It's hard to be out here knowing that there's going to be 7, maybe 8 kids potentially that are they're going to meet their parents in the hospital.
8 confirmed injured. Now, I want to break this down for you. 4 are in critical condition, 1 is in fair condition, and 3 are in stable condition. And I want to be really accurate with our language here. Stable condition doesn't necessarily mean good. It doesn't necessarily mean bad. Of course, we're going to have to wait that out. But that, as of right now, again, 4 critical, 1 fair, and 3 stable. So we can't speculate whether those 3 stable that are injured are in good or bad condition, but that was an important update.
Here's what we know at this point. The last update we have from law enforcement and our news partners is that 8 people were injured today in a shootings at the STEM school by at least 2 suspects who have been taken into custody. There was concern that a third may still be roaming the campus of the STEM school there, but at this point it appears that the all clear is, if not very close, then already here. Law enforcement, we've heard reports, largely standing down at this point. Every time these school shootings happen, parents have to decide how to tell their kids what happened. We saw some very frightened faces earlier of kids getting off the bus that probably didn't know, and by all means we're not experts at it, but okay, Crystal's back, I believe, with another parent right now. Go ahead, Crystal.
Can you spell that for me? Mallikjun. and Bikumala Bikkkumalla.
We just got done talking to this father who's this young boy was in the school when it happened, and he just had this. Tell me what you felt when you walked in and you saw your kid there.
You know, like it's a rebirth. It's a rebirth. This is very sad happening in the schools in US. There should be a way to control these things. Whether we don't know whether we are sending the kids to the school or to the graveyard. They should find a proper solution for this, and it should not happen anywhere in the US.
Do you think your youngest had any idea what was going on?
Yes, I did. I had no idea though. I was scared that they were gonna arrest people.
Did you hear anything?
Huh?
Did you hear anything?
Yeah, I heard the knocking on the door when I was in my school. I thought it was a robber, but it was just in police, and I was so scared.
Thank you for chatting with us. I appreciate it.
The hashtag for this incident is STEM shooting, one word, and Douglas County is using that. And at Douglas County, let me double check the address here, at DC Sheriff is the official Twitter handle for Douglas County. The reason I'm telling you this is because there's a lot of junk right now on Twitter. There's a lot of, it's getting very political. People are obviously very angry and upset, and that's okay, but we just want to caution you from believing everything you see or read on Twitter at this point. We're doing our best to bring you the facts as we're hearing from the law enforcement agencies involved, from the hospitals, from our news partners in Denver, as well as our own contacts in the Denver area to bring you what we can.
Let's talk about the language that's being used. Early on, it was referred to as 2 suspects that were taken into custody. Well, now the Douglas County Sheriff is referring to those suspects as the shooters, 2 shooters. So let's talk about that for a moment. It is very rare to see 2 shooters in a mass shooting. We look at all these recent incidents across the country where it's just been a lone wolf. Yeah. You know, you mentioned the Las Vegas shooting, lone wolf.
Parkland,
still don't know a motive
Virginia
on that.
Tech,
Parkland,
yeah.
Virginia, the list goes on and on. The
Sandy
one
Hook,
in most,
sure.
Sandy Hook, the one in most recent memory is the Columbine shooting,
right,
which just unfolded with 2
yeah.
shooters,
Yeah.
which unfolded 7.5 miles from this location here today, nearly 20 years later. We hate reporting on this just as much as you hate hearing this. We don't enjoy this aspect of our jobs, and yet we just want to get the information out to you. We're just awaiting word from Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock to give us an update, maybe on those victims, perhaps the shooters, the amount of bullets that were fired, maybe how fast law enforcement arrived on scene. As we told you earlier today, when those first calls for help happened at 2:53 this afternoon, it was a matter of minutes before law enforcement arrived there, and when they got to the school, they could still hear bullets being fired, at which point then there was some sort of struggle that ensued between law enforcement and those active shooters. At that point, then there was some sort of struggle and they were disarmed. We don't know how long that struggle went on, but it is safe to assume that they had plenty of ammunition to carry this on for quite some time. This involved some planning and some forethought.
And they were disarmed by the deputies. Just to be clear, it was the deputies who walked into the school who were able to disarm the students there. Is this, you want to listen in here? Okay, I think this is more of kind of a preview of what's going to happen here. Now, here is Tony Spurlock here. Let's listen to see what he has to say.
And then I will kind of identify and let you know who we have working with us right now. My name is Tony Spurlock. I'm the sheriff of Douglas County, and I am very sorry to have to come to you at this. I will tell you that I have Chief Matt Packer of the Colorado State Patrol and Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Dean Phillips, working with us, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how they are helping us. I also have my Board of County Commissioners here and representatives that represent the citizens of Douglas County here as well to help. This is what we know at this point. We know that 2 individuals walked into the STEM school, got deep inside the school, and engaged students in 2 separate locations.
Just into our newsroom, 2 pieces of video, one actually audio. What you're about to hear is the first call from the dispatch center in Douglas County. Two deputies referenced the shooting after the call came in from the STEM school. Let's listen to the audio and pay attention to the dispatcher's voice. You can tell she's pretty troubled.
Attention all units getting information on a shooting, STEM school, 8757 Ridgeline Boulevard. Again, getting reports of shots fired in the school at the STEM school, 8757 Ridgeline Boulevard.
Not the call that any dispatcher hopes to ever have to put out, but one, unfortunately, too many have had to do over the last few years. And we certainly commend the dispatchers and all the first responders who were able to get to the school within a matter of minutes. Tony Spurlock estimated about 2 minutes. Some of our sources are telling us who have actually literally timed the radio traffic to about 3 minutes. So Tony Spurlock not exaggerating there in terms of the time it took to get there.
And we've also heard from a couple of parents who have been in the unfortunate position of having to deal with another school shooting, yet another one here in Colorado. Earlier we heard from the father of a very young boy who I estimated to be about 7 or 8 years of age. He said, "We don't know if we're sending our kids to the graveyard." Such hard words to be spoken, and yet for a lot of parents that is the thought that they are having.
Attention all units getting information on a shooting, STEM school, 8757 Ridgeline Boulevard. Again, getting reports of shots fired in the school at the STEM school, 8757 Ridgeline Boulevard.
Not the call that any dispatcher hopes to ever have to put out, but one, unfortunately, too many have had to do over the last few years. And we certainly commend the dispatchers and all the first responders who were able to get to the school within a matter of minutes. Tony Spurlock estimated about 2 minutes. Some of our sources are telling us who have actually literally timed the radio traffic to about 3 minutes. So Tony Spurlock not exaggerating there in terms of the time it took to get there.
And we've also heard from a couple of parents who have been in the unfortunate position of having to deal with another school shooting, yet another one here in Colorado. Earlier we heard from the father of a very young boy who I estimated to be about 7 or 8 years of age. He said, "We don't know if we're sending our kids to the graveyard." Such hard words to be spoken, and yet for a lot of parents that is the thought that they are having.
4 are in critical condition, 1 is in fair condition, and 3 are in stable condition. And I want to be really accurate with our language here. Stable condition doesn't necessarily mean good. It doesn't necessarily mean bad. Of course, we're going to have to wait that out. But that, as of right now, again, 4 critical, 1 fair, and 3 stable. So we can't speculate whether those 3 stable that are injured are in good or bad condition. But that was an important update. Secondly, we, from our news partners in Denver, we're getting some updates, some in-person interviews of the parents that are meeting where Crystal just was at the recreation center. Now, many of them, as Crystal just illustrated for us, you know, some just running in with their bare feet. I mean, really just a chaotic situation at this rec center. Now, our news partners in Denver say many of the students are surprised. One parent interviewed said, "Not again." I thought that was very powerful given the context of this, the tragedies we've seen in the past. Now, many of them commented, and when I say them, I'm talking about the parents interviewed right now at the rec center. Many of them are commenting on how surprised they are because of how safe they believe STEM school is. In fact, they even mentioned you have to click a doorbell in order to enter the school. So this, when they got alert to it, they were really shocked, as any parent would be. And another big question that was brought up in many of these interviews is obviously surrounding these 2 suspects we know are in custody. And I want to point out again, we know no details about these suspects. We don't know their names. We don't know their gender. We know nothing at this point about those suspects. But many of them are questioning whether or not these suspects, both of the suspects, are students, because you may remember in the press conference earlier, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office did mention they are not ruling out that a juvenile could be one of the shooters.